And thank you, Vanessa, for turning on the live stream. It's already getting dark. I had to like turn on my overhead light for the first time since maybe we met in March.
The daylight savings, I had to do the same thing.
No se oye, hijo, el video están del Zoom. Están hablando y no oigo nada.
Ahorita todavía no hemos comenzado.
No, pues,
¿Me escuchan? Minerva, ¿sí me puede escuchar?
Sí, Marisela, sí te escuchamos.
Ok, perfecto. Gracias. Ahorita todavía comenzamos la reunión. En unos minutos empezamos. Gracias.
Vanessa, can you see the screen with the welcome to Shafter?
Yes, I can see it.
Awesome, thank you. Hello, Jessica.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
We'll get started in about a minute. Okay, it's about 5 o'clock. Jessica, do you know anybody we're waiting for that we should wait for before we get started, or is it okay to jump in?
Maybe let's wait like 30 more seconds. I think a lot of people tend to wait until 5 o'clock to log in, so we'll give folks a little bit of
Okie
time.
doke.
Thank you. But yes,
Mhm.
right, maybe right at 5:01 we start, just to thank those that are here with us on time. Thank you.
Love it.
All right, Diana, I think we're good to get started and do our instructions.
Thank you. Well,
Alonso,
welcome everybody. Thank
no
you
sé
for
nada, me van
attending
a
tonight's
correr.
meeting. Before we get started, we're going to make sure that everybody could participate in the meeting in whatever language that you're most comfortable in. So I'm going to pass the mic to Linguistica, to Diana from Linguistica, to give you instructions about how to make sure you're in the correct language channel.
Thank you, Diana. Hello, everyone. As Diana mentioned, today we'll have interpretation available for those who need it. If you're joining from a computer, at the bottom of the Zoom menu, you will see a word-like icon that says interpretation. You can select that, and then you can select English. If you don't see the word-like icon, you will see the three dots that says more, and then you can see interpretation or language interpretation and select English. And if you're joining from your phone or an iPad or a tablet, you can tap your screen, select the three dots, and then you will scroll until you find language interpretation and then select English. And at the end, you will choose the option finish or done. And I'm going to give my instructions in Spanish now. Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos a la Junta. El día de hoy tenemos el servicio de interpretación disponible para aquellas personas que lo requieran. Si se están conectando desde una computadora, en la parte de abajo del menú de Zoom tenemos el icono que parece un mundo que dice interpretación, o si no seleccionamos la opción de tres puntitos que dice más, ahí también podemos elegir lo que dice interpretación. Luego seleccionamos español y silenciar el audio original para que puedan escuchar la interpretación del inglés al español y una sola voz. Si se están conectando desde una tableta o desde su dispositivo móvil, tienen que tocar la pantalla, seleccionar la opción de los tres puntos y subir hasta encontrar la opción que dice interpretación de idiomas. Seleccionamos nuevamente español, silenciar el audio original y la opción que dice finalizado, terminado o listo. Si tienen algún inconveniente o algún problema para conectarse, por favor nos dejan saber por el chat. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. I want to give a minute to make sure that everybody can hear in the language that they would like to hear in. So if you can't hear in the language you want to hear in, or if you're trying to get into the English or Spanish channel and cannot do that, please raise your hand or say something or put a message in the chat to make, I'll give it a second. Everybody good? At any time, if the interpretation goes out, or if any of us are talking too fast or too slow, please feel free to raise your hand or come off mute and ask us to slow down or ask us to fix the audio. We want to make sure that everybody can participate. So thank you for being here tonight and welcome to our November Shafter Community Steering Committee meeting. As usual, my colleague Vanessa and I are facilitating today's meeting, and we're joined by a lot of folks from the Valley Air District who will talk at different points in the meeting tonight. I want to start by acknowledging that there's been a lot going on in the past week, in the past couple years. That's taken, at least for me, a lot of my energy and a lot of my brain power. And I want to thank you all for being here and spending your precious free time working together. That really is what's been keeping me going in the past couple weeks, is knowing that people like you are spending your time making sure that your communities and your families are really healthy, and spending a lot of energy doing that. And that's really what's giving me hope and what's really getting me through these days. And so I really do want to thank you all. We thank you every time for being at these meetings. And for me, it's especially true for tonight's meeting. So thank you all. To jump into today's agenda and the logistics that we always do at the beginning, this slide tells you how to rename yourself so that we know where all of the wonderful places that you're all joining us from. So if you're a CSC member, a resident, if you're joining us from one of the community partners, please rename your Zoom name so that we know who you are. This is especially important for those of you who are participating in our stipend program, so we give you credit for being here. To make sure that everybody can participate, we ask you to be on mute when you're not talking. I think this group actually is really good at doing this. You can raise your Zoom hand if at any point if you have a question, or like I said before, if you would like us to talk faster or you don't understand something. You also are free to come off mute and ask a question or put it in the chat. Vanessa and I monitor the chat, and a lot of other people too, to make sure that anybody could get all of their questions answered. So what we're going to spend the rest of the time doing tonight is going through a number of items that are the next steps from the October in-person meeting. I can't believe it's been about a month since the October in-person meeting, but the agenda items for today are the next steps from the October in-person meeting, and also in support of the winding down of the 5-year implementation period. So we're going to start, as we always do, with reviewing the action items tracker. We're going to spend a good amount of time talking about the annual report and what that looks like and the input that you can give for that. We're going to talk about the non-incentive CERT measures strategic planning for that. So those are the measures that we didn't talk about last time, and kind of what are the next steps with those. And then we're going to end our meeting like we usually do with standing updates from a lot of the partner agencies, and then talk about the next couple meetings, and then have space for public comment. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all of your lovely faces. And before we officially get started, I'm going to pass it to Jessica from the Air District to give some opening remarks.
Good evening. I just want to echo what Diana said. I think it's been a long week for some, and nothing encourages me more than being in meetings like this with you all, really committed to getting the work done in your community. And it just is such a perfect time to talk about that, because today is so much about the progress that we've made together. So I just thank you all for joining us and look forward to tonight's meeting. Thank you, Diana.
This is Diana. Thank you, Jessica. Does anybody have any questions about what we're going to do tonight before we jump into our agenda? Great. So then I think we'll go to our first agenda item, which is reviewing the action item tracker. So as in all of the meetings, Vanessa and I write down action items during our meeting. So things that you all brought up that you would like us or the Air District to follow up on, or one of the partner agencies, or a question that you had that we couldn't answer or we needed more information about. So we write all of those down during the meeting. We review them at the end of the meeting, like we'll do today, to make sure that we wrote those all down correctly. And then at the beginning of the next meeting, we review the action items from the past meetings and talk about the progress or where they are. And so I'm now going to pass it to Rocio to share the action items since our last meeting.
Thank you so much, Diana. This is Rocio. Hi, everyone. It was very nice seeing you all in person at last month's meeting. Let me go ahead and share my screen so we can get started with the action items that were noted down. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, so we have 3 action items in the completed section today that I will go over. So starting off with the first action item, this was for Kern County Public Works to take a look at all the CSC feedback that was received at the last meeting in person on all the potential potential sidewalk installation and paving project suggestions. So Kern County Public Works did take a note of all of these and they are looking into them. And of course, the district will make sure to continue working with partners on potential paving projects that will come in the future. And moving on to the next action item, this was also a great suggestion or question that a resident had, and this was to look into the feasibility for CNG, which is compressed natural gas replacement for heavy duty trucks. And as you all are aware, at the last meeting, the CSC did support reallocating all the funds from the heavy duty truck measure to support other in need measures. But if individuals are still interested in the heavy duty program or have any questions or interested to participate, we do still have the Valley-wide program. And I did go ahead and include a link here, and this will take you directly to the grant page. And then moving on to the last action item. So we did receive a comment from a CSC member for the district to follow up on the permit changes / renewal for GAF that's near Highway 99. And so we did look into this request and we found that the main building permit actually expires next year in June 30th, 2025. So they are up for renewal and they will have until the end of the year to submit that application. So happy to pause here and see if there's any questions on these 3 action items that I just shared today. Don't see anything in the chat or any hands raised. So I'll be happy to pass it back to you, Diana. Thank you.
Great. This is Diana. So if anybody has any questions about the action items in the future or it comes up during the rest of the meeting, feel free to put it in the chat or stop us, raise your hand, and say you want to go back to the action items. It's always fine to ask a question about something that we've already gone through. So the next action item, the next agenda item is the annual report updates. And so Jessica is going to share her screen and also paste a link in the chat so you can follow along either in English or in Spanish with her screen. It's got this cool interactive report this time. So like with each of the annual reports that the Air District does every year, the goal is to share, the audience for this is the board and CARB, and the goal is to share the work that all of you have been doing in the past year with them. So as you are listening to Jessica and following along, think about if there's anything that we all have accomplished in the past year that you don't see reflected there, or something that's there that you want a little bit differently or anything like that. The goal today is to get your feedback on this to see if it reflects the work that you've all been doing in the past year, see if there's anything missing or anything that needs to be elevated more. We have about a little bit more than a half an hour for this, and so a good amount of time if you would like to ask questions. So with that, I'm going to pass it to you, Jessica, and Rocio just put the links in the chat if you want to follow along on your screen.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am going to go back and forth between the English and Spanish version as I scroll. So bear with me. The link to both of these, as was mentioned, is in the chat from Rocio just now. But as Diana mentioned, and I think you all know this now being our 5th annual report, we put together a report that I think 2 things. One is certainly what Diana said, which is this is a report that we have to put to our board, we have to send to CARB. So that's really the main audience. But we also want this report as a tool for you all to communicate to folks what you've been doing. Maybe your neighbor is curious what you do, you know, on the first or second Monday of every month. Maybe there's someone you've been talking to that's really interested in getting involved, or maybe there's a student you work with or some youth that are interested. We think this report, and in particular, the way we've tried to do it this year, is a good way for you all and for the district collectively with you to spread, you know, the good word about all of the stuff that's going on in Shafter. So this year, we put our report in a little different format, just so we could make it easier and more accessible. In the years past, it's been like a 20 to 40 page, depending on which report you're talking about, report that's not very accessible if the audience are the youth and other folks were trying to get involved. So this year we put it into something called a story map. However, I'm going to caveat it with, we do plan to print this and send this out to you so that you can both access it on your phone or on your computer, but also on print if that makes more sense to how you would like to help review. So this first part of the report is really a summary, and it's very similar to what you've seen year by year, of all of the work that we do in general as a district in AB617, including a timeline with some links to all of the different communities we work in, including your community. And then we talk about kind of where we're at today and what the point of the report is. Now, in a month, when we're done with all of these individual community reports, we're actually going to combine all of the reports. And so you can click on any one of these and go straight to the report for your community. The example that I'm showing today and the link that Rocio just shared is just going to be for the Shafter community, so it doesn't confuse you or add too much to your plate to review. But actually, this particular way we've been able to format the report allows you to scroll through, and this actually works on your phone as well, scroll through the report and jumps you to all of the different communities, including yours, as you can, you know, eventually read about the annual progress in each one of the different communities. And once you click on one of these buttons, it will jump you to the report for that community. So in this case, this is the report for Shafter. So I'm just going to really quickly, just for a little bit of transparency for those that may be following in English, kind of show you a very similar thing. So this is that same map I just shared. And now we're jumping to the Community Emissions Reduction Program Progress Report, or CERP Progress Report. So these first few paragraphs here are very similar to what you've seen in each one of our reports, which is just a reminder of what your CERP contains. I'm going to maybe zoom in if it's maybe easier for folks to see. A reminder of the targets that we had, as well as some of the programs or organizations or agencies that we've partnered with to do all of this work. But the coolest part, and what we're really interested in hearing back from you all on, this year we decided to focus on sort of 6 highlights from the year and use that as a better way, we think, of highlighting the progress we've made together, rather than just having a couple of paragraphs outlining each one of our programs. So what you'll see here is in this particular report, and I'm just going to zoom it out back a little bit, you can scroll here and you'll see 6 different things that we highlight. The first, you might recognize this from just last month, is our in-person steering committee meeting where we made really big decisions on funding allocations. And we definitely want the board, we want CARB and the community to know all of the hard work you do and the big decisions you all make with us. And we talk about that here in this section of the report. The cool part about this program is you can sit here and you can click through pictures if you want, or you can keep scrolling and it will jump you to the next example. And as you do this, there's a map here that kind of jumps back and forth depending on which particular part we're talking about. This example is talking about all of the bike lane and sidewalk projects that we've been able to work on. In particular, we're talking about, or this couple of the different pictures are both from our Mexican colony area, the La Colonia area, as well as the Shafter bike lane projects. We have a highlight about all of the tree planting work that we've been able to do, which is such a big effort because really it was Shafter that was the first, at least in the Valley, to come up with tree planting as one of the main measures in their CERP. So it's really neat to kind of see full picture the vegetative barriers and urban greening projects in this report, and especially because we have community members that joined us out there that day. This is the Vegetative Barriers Project, which again was such a big lift from all of you, and then of course our partners at the wonderful company. And so again, a nice way to highlight and showcase some of the work done there. We talk about the vehicle replacement workshops that we host with Valley Clean Air Now, and how we go out there and not only help with those workshops, but sign folks up for air purifiers or do other outreach in the community through this effort. And finally, we talk about the lawnmower exchange. The cool part about this is that this just happened. We're really, really excited. You all helped us not only move more money into this program just, several months ago when we had our in-person meeting in April, but we just had that event and had 322 residents in the Shafter community receive, and I think maybe we have a typo actually. Or maybe I guess combined, maybe that's what it means. Sorry, Roscoe. Together, really what this means is that over 500 residents since the beginning of the SERP have been to lawnmower exchange events and exchanged their lawnmowers. And that's what you see here. Oh, and then finally, we talk about how we're doing some of the back to school outreach as well. So of course, we know that that doesn't reflect every single measure we've been able to do. So we do have a link here that's our SERP measure tracker. And so when you click here, it just takes you to the tracker that we send you every month, but it's also a way for folks in your community to go and check on every single measure. So with that, I might just open the English one just for a second while I ask you all a couple of questions. The first is, do you feel like there's something that we've highlighted that you think we're maybe not showing correctly or that you want changed? Or is there something that you think we've accomplished this year that you really want to highlight that we're missing from this list? Here's some more pictures.
And this is Diana. Feel free to come off mute and share your ideas or put them in the chat or raise your hand if you have ideas for Jessica about your reactions to the report or suggestions. Angie.
Yeah.
I just wanted to double check. Can you go back to the lawnmower event?
Yes. Oops.
I just was wanting to know if that was 500 residents of only lawnmowers, or is it combined with the tune-in, tune-up that day? That's all
Great
the
question.
clarification I wanted.
Great question. Yes. So on that, it's the 500 residents were served total. 322 replaced their lawnmower, and 206 residents participated in the smog repair event.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, and thank you for asking. I was totally in the Spanish one and failing to read the Spanish properly.
You did pretty good.
Thank you. So maybe I'll just, as you're looking through this, I'll say a couple of things. One is, we know this is different than last year, so we know it might take you a little bit to scroll through it. Maybe there's something that you're thinking of, but you're not quite sure how to phrase it. So we are hoping that in a couple of weeks, we get some feedback from you. So this is not the only time we're asking for feedback. What we want to do is we want to not only send these links out to you, but for those that typically receive a printed packet from us, we will also print the PDF version and send it to you for review. If you're not sure if you're one of those people, for those that get printed packets, we will send them to you. But if you don't normally receive a printed packet from us, but you would like one, definitely let us know right now in the chat and we'll get your name down and we'll add you to our list to send out. I am one of those, I love that we have it in this format, but I also, if I'm reviewing something, I do enjoy a good printed copy.
This is Diana. Thank you, Jessica. So We have more time if folks have questions or things they want to bring up now. Otherwise, you're free to review either through the links that Rocio posted in the chat in English or Spanish, or if you would like to get a printed copy and you don't normally get a printed copy of the CSC materials, feel free to put your name in the chat and we can make sure that that happens. Jessica, is there a deadline or a date by when you would like the CSC members to give you feedback?
Yes, we will send it out with a strict, like a hard deadline, but we're thinking by the 25th if we can have all of that back. But of course, if folks have something to say on the 26th, we will incorporate everything and anything we can. But we do want to get a chance to get more information out to you by then. And I will add, as we're talking, in our next presentation, you'll hear a little bit about kind of some big next steps as a community. We will plan to incorporate a little bit more in this annual report related to that, related to some of the other measures. And so hopefully, like if that's your comment, we definitely want to hear it, but I want you to know that that is an additional piece we will be adding before we, and we'll send that back out to you all to take a look at as well.
And this is Diana again. Jessica, you mentioned this at the beginning. Can you remind us again of the next steps for the report?
Yes, thank you. I kind of did, but I didn't make it super clear. So we will take all of your feedback, make the changes, translate it, send it back out to you all. Maybe additional feedback is totally welcome. We will be taking it to our board at our December board meeting. And that board meeting is on December 19th, which means we will be posting it on December 12th. So that's typically what that means, is that the annual report will be finalized on the 12th. After our board meeting, then we will submit it to the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. So that's been our process every year, and you've all been so helpful in giving us feedback each year. But like we said, this year we wanted to make it a little bit easier for folks to digest and read, and make it very much about highlighting all of your good work, which is why you see lots of pictures.
This is Diana. Thank you, Jessica. Any other questions or comments or suggestions about the annual report at this point? And again, you have more time if you want to look at it on your own. Oh, there's a question in the chat from Bianca. Would you include the outreach and also for updates on the the urban greening?
So in here we have updates, general updates on urban greening. So a couple of things are happening. So urban greening, as it was originally allocated in the SERP, is complete. If you're talking about vegetative barriers and additional outreach we need to do, we can touch a little bit more on that if that's what you would like us to do, just to talk about the opportunities. I do believe, and it might even be in there. Yeah, maybe I'll just share that part of the, I'm going to share this in English, but I'll read it out loud so it can be interpreted. As funding remains in this measure, the district will continue conducting outreach to schools, businesses, and agencies, including the City of Shafter, Kern County Ag Commissioner, and Kern County Farm Bureau, to identify opportunities to plant additional vegetative barriers in the Shafter community. So Bianca, as you all take a look at that language, if you feel like there's other things that we want to include in the report, definitely let us know. But just to clarify, we definitely are continuing outreach. So I don't know if that was also your question.
This is Diana. Bianca, did that answer? I saw your square and then it moved around, so I'm not sure where your square went, but wanted to check if that answered your question, Bianca.
I just have a follow-up, because I know that I've been speaking to Eric about the outreach with the contacts that the Ag Commissioner provided for the green vegetative barriers and the outreach for the new machinery. I know that the CSC had approved to allocate more funding for machineries, or better efficient machineries for the communities, for the farmers. So my question is, can we also highlight? I think it's very important that it shows that there's a connection between the residents and the growers
Yeah.
to do this type of outreach. So I think it's important to highlight that there's a friendly connection that they're able to work together, and added to the annual report does make it better. I think highlighting it's a visual that residents are working in
Yeah.
making this possible.
Bianca, I love that. I think that's a fabulous idea. And I'm just going to say also for the Arvin Lamont annual report, that's such a great point that some of the, and I don't know, maybe not everyone on this call, because we talked about it at our Arvin Lamont meetings, but it's really for both. Everyone in Kern County is really benefiting from, I think, a lot of great leadership from you all as residents, and Bianca Santoyo and Cesar Aguirre and Gustavo Aguirre, who have been working really closely with us and working really closely with the Ag Commissioner on all of these projects. And I agree, Bianca, that's a great thing to highlight.
This is Diana. Any other questions or comments for Jessica before we close off this point? Well, thank you all. And again, there's many ways for you to give your feedback in the next week or two, couple weeks. You could either do it through the online version of the report or through the printed copy that they'll send you, and any feedback would be welcome. So thank you. So I'm now going to pass it to Vanessa to go to our next agenda item.
This is Vanessa. Thanks so much, Diana, for facilitating that discussion. And thank you all so much for your continued engagement during tonight's meeting, as well as every other meeting. Next on our agenda is a non-incentive SERP measure strategic planning item. So for context, non-incentive SERP measures are commitments that are not tied to any SERP funding. And these can include outreach, like community events or flyering. The purpose of this item is for the Air District to review all of the non-incentive SERP measures that have been done over the past 5 years and celebrate these accomplishments with the CSC. And before we jump into tonight's discussion, we want to emphasize that there are no deadlines or decisions tied to any of the SERP commitments that you will hear about today. And we have 45 minutes for this agenda item, so we encourage you all to ask questions and share feedback if you have anything to share after today's presentation. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Jess.
Thank you, Vanessa. This is Jessica again. Before we get started, I just want to remind us what we did last month, because it was actually a really, really big deal. We talked about how to tie up a lot of our incentives measures. So those are the measures that have funding that we give to either community members or organizations or agencies to reduce emissions, much like what Bianca was just saying with a couple of examples. And we made decisions last month on how we can reallocate funding and understand where we are at when it comes to what we call the 5th year. So we've talked a lot about how the SERP is a 5-year program, and we are coming up on those 5 years. We presented on this a couple of months ago that those 5 years end in February 2025, which is just a few months away. So I feel like we worked really, really hard last month on how we're moving forward on the incentives pieces. But as a reminder, and I think all of you know this, but our SERP is half of it is much more than incentives. It's about outreach and enforcement and permitting and a few other things that we'll talk about tonight. We also have things like logistics, like meeting frequency and when and where we do meetings, that we also wanted to just work with you all on as we kind of approach that February timeline. So I'm going to jump in right now by sharing my screen, and we'll get started. So it's wild a little bit to talk about because 5 years of progress, that means we've been meeting with you for over 6 years because we met for over a year before we adopted that SERP. So a lot of us have known each other a really long time when we've worked together, and so much, I know a few of you are sitting there probably thinking the same thing. So much has changed about how we all work together, about who we communicate with and how often, about who we are interested in reaching out to. Just so much of our dynamic, I think, as a group has changed over 5 years, 6.5 years, really. So I just want to acknowledge that, and it's been such a rewarding time for us. We're going to talk about looking ahead to year 6. This is definitely not goodbye, but we will transition to something a little different starting in February. I think a few of us have talked about it already, but we just wanted to highlight it for everyone. We're also going to talk about outreach, enforcement, and permitting commitments that we've made throughout the SERP and remind you where we're at with each of those. So after February 2025, there are a couple of things that we will do to transition into our next phase of what we want to work on. So the first is that we will be transitioning to quarterly meetings. That means instead of meeting like we do generally once a month, I think this month this is our last one, we're skipping December and we'll meet again in January. But usually, as you all know, we meet once a month, but we will be having quarterly meetings that are more about checking in on the remaining commitments, really focusing actually exactly on what Bianca talked about, on the commitments you just shifted money to, commitments we still have money left over in that we're trying to get out the door, like air filtration devices and car replacement and car tune-up, as well as checking in on air quality and continuing to talk about our community air monitoring program, which is not stopping. We're going to keep monitoring and talking about air quality. We also want you to know that these are still meetings where we are requesting you to spend your time with us to make decisions to move things forward. And so we do expect these to continue to be stipend meetings for resident members. We do not expect to have agenda setting meetings. However, I will say that I talked with a lot of you. We will continue to have subcommittee meetings as needed. That way, in between, if there's maybe something that we need to dig in a little deeper on in between the quarterly meetings, we want to just make sure you all have as much information as possible or you're included. And if it can't wait 3 months, we don't want to wait 3 months. So even though there's not agenda setting meetings, there will still be plenty of opportunities for subcommittee meetings or other check-ins with you all to continue to engage on SERP commitments. We will continue, as we do with you all the time, updating the SERP tracker, giving those enforcement reports, and giving air monitoring reports. So nothing about how we communicate progress will change, and Rocio will continue to be your liaison for communicating things that need to go out to the community. We also will continue to make sure you all know about things like upcoming planning or rule development measures. I know you all get emails from us occasionally about things outside of 617. We will continue to do that and even sign you all up as you are requested or as you're interested in what we call email listservs. So other email lists besides what we do. But again, I think the main thing that we're focusing on here is we're just transitioning to a little bit less frequent meeting because we only have a few things remaining to focus on. But all else considered, most of our interactions will be the same, and you'll receive the same amount of information pretty frequently in between meetings. I'm going to stop there since we have a lot of time on this measure and see if there's any questions before, or on this item rather, and see if there's any questions before I move on. Maybe while we're doing that, I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, but I also want you to know that because we transition in February, we're dying to see you again, and we're hoping actually to make February another in-person meeting so that we get a chance to really launch into this next phase after we see you all once again in person. So I just wanted everyone to hear that and hopefully get excited for that as well. Awesome. Okay, well, that doesn't mean we can't ask questions at the end. So please let me know. I'm sure there's lots of thoughts, but if not, I'm going to move on and then I'll stop again at the end for questions. All right, I'm actually going to pass to Michelle from our outreach team, who you all know really well, to talk about our outreach commitments and how we've been able to accomplish them over the past few years.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Rivera. Like Jess said, I'm a part of the outreach and communication team here at the Valley Air District. We just want to talk about some of the outreach commitments that we've really committed ourselves to, just how we are going, like what we've done in the past 5 years and what we're actually committing to continue to do. I don't know if you guys remember, if you guys were a part of Community Clean Air Day. Some of these were taken from some of those cards. Some of those were some that I committed to, maybe some of our team members committed to. But these are what we've committed to, being getting communities involved in clean air efforts. Another example is community air quality outreach strategy, increasing engagement with schools, outreach about harmful impacts of wood burning, and outreach to reduce illegal burning. So you guys will be seeing some of this in some of your SERP trackers that we do and we translate for you every month. You guys will see what we've done and what we plan to continue to do, whether it's just messaging, actually doing stuff on social media or doing outreach events in your community. You guys will continue to see that. Hopefully, again, if you guys have any questions of what we're doing in your community, and you guys don't see that on your SERP trackers, or you guys want to like a little bit more detail, please make sure to let us know. We'd be happy to include more information if you guys want more information. But if we can go to the next slide. Another part of our outreach commitments that we've done over the last 5 years is that we have attended 39 outreach events in Shafter. This includes all kinds of outreach events. So whether it's school related, a trunk or treat, or whether it's air purifier distributions when we were actually doing them in person, or, just attending local events such as your Cinco de Mayo events that we didn't have air purifiers. We were still helping residents with those applications. And then, like I said, we do participate in school outreach. So whether it's back to school, parent coffee hours, or any type of outreach distribution. So like our materials that we were handing out during parent or student pickups and drop-offs. So we engage with all schools in your boundary, which is 11 of them, through the AB617 process. If you guys, again, think of any events or any schools that are having events, please make sure to let me know or Rocio know. We'd be happy to attend, continuing on into this next year. If you go to the next slide. These are just some of the examples of events that we've attended in your community. You'll see in the top left, air purifier distributions. This was one that we did in partnership with the Lions Club. They helped us pass out flyers, and we went out there, and I believe we did 150 at this event. Great event that we did. That was one of our first in-person ones that we did in Shafter. We partnered with Valley Can on some of their workshops that they've been doing. So whenever they're in your community, we try to be there as well. So not just passing out air purifier information, the replace workshop information, but as well as like illegal burning activity or any of our other programs like fireplace and wood stove change out. First Fridays, we did attend as many as we could during the summer months. So we'd be happy to attend some of those if we get invited, or if you guys would like us out there, make sure you let us know. Our back to school outreach, like I mentioned, this was at one of our schools that we did outreach at this year. This was a back to school night, and I had a great turnout. I believe we probably saw over 300 parents that night. Tree planting, I was there with some of our CSC members. It was a great event. We had lots of fun planting trees, whether they were little trees or big trees, and we were out there with some of the Girl Scouts. So you saw some of those pictures as well in your annual report of the Girl Scouts planting flowers in some of those flower beds. lawnmower exchange that just happened this weekend, or this last month, I'm sorry. A great event as well. We were out there helping residents with clean air rooms programs application, but we'll go over that a little bit later during this meeting just to give you updated numbers on that as well. But like we said, continued school outreach and other events. Again, if you guys know of anything or would like us out in your community, let me know. And then I'll pass it back to Jess.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll move on, but definitely feel free to unmute or stop me as we go over these next couple of sets of commitments. As you all know, we report once a quarter, and we also roll it up into our annual report, so we'll send that out to you as well, all of our enforcement commitments. In your SERP, we committed to 4 enhanced enforcement measures, I'll say. And really why we call them enhanced is because enforcement is constantly happening across the district, including in Shafter. We committed to going above and beyond our typical enforcement actions in the community of Shafter over these past 5 years. We had enhanced inspection frequency of any facility that had an emissions-related violation in the past 3 years. We had enhanced enforcement to reduce illegal burning, which we went out and did extra surveillance to make sure that illegal burning, like burning trash, was not happening. We had enhanced enforcement of wood burning curtailment. So that's when you are not supposed to burn your wood burning fireplace. We sent out inspectors more than we normally do for enhanced surveillance, meaning they drive around the community for 4 hours every time there was a wood burning curtailment. And we had enhanced enforcement of our statewide anti-idling regulation in partnership with the community or the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. And we report on this every quarter, and we report on it every year, but seeing it rolled up over the past 5 years is kind of a really interesting, I think, a good picture of how much effort that really takes and how much that commitment hopefully impacts the community. So over the past 5 years in the Shafter community, we've conducted 732 facility inspections. That is not because there are 732 facilities. That is because facilities regularly are inspected at least once a year. And any of them that had emissions-related violations were enhanced inspections, meaning they got extra inspections and had multiple inspections per year. And so over 5 years, that added up to 732 facility inspections. We had 120 targeted surveillance efforts to enforce the anti-idling rule for trucks. We had over 1,335 hours of targeted surveillance for the wood burning curtailment rule. That is a lot of extra surveillance and a lot of extra eyes out there trying to discourage people from burning their wood burning fireplace when they are not supposed to, and encouraging people to take advantage of our residential wood burning replacement program, where we ask that you transition to something like natural gas or an electric heat pump. And then finally, we had 270 hours of targeted surveillance to reduce illegal burning of residential waste. So that's, again, reducing illegal burning of trash. How many violations were given out? I don't have that right here. We do report that in our quarterly reports and our annual report. So Bianca, I'm happy when we finalize the annual report, we will be having a summary of violations, complaints, all of those things in addition to all of this. But that's a great question. And just so you all recall, our annual and quarterly enforcement reports not only detail how many violations, but it talks about what the violations were for. Was it for wood burning? Was it for a facility? That sort of thing. Thank you. Rocio put in there our archive of all of our reports. But that's a great question, Bianca, and we'll make sure that our enforcement report as a part of the annual report will include that data. Awesome. Cool. One of the other things that we haven't talked about in a while, but it's not because it's not important, it's just because we wrapped it up a while ago, was permitting commitment. So these are 2 different things that we've done as a part of our commitment to address permitted facilities in the area. The first is expedited facility risk assessment and risk reduction for AB 2588. That's a lot of language, and I'll explain what that means in a minute or remind you all what that means. And the other is evaluation of rules. So maybe just because the next slide has our rules, I'll talk really briefly about the evaluation of rules part. So this is a list. None of this is new. This is the list we've shared every year in the annual report of how the district committed to you all to keep you informed. And I'm sure you all got, all of our different emails to invite you about the rule assessment process, and then if needed, rule amendment process for a bunch of rules and regulations that either apply to maybe some of the facilities in the area, or in some cases to residents like wood burning fireplaces and heaters. So in each one of these cases, we did an evaluation, and if that evaluation led us to understand that the rule needed to be amended, you all received an invite to a workshop or an update just in, of course, our monthly trackers about the rule amendment process. I think I know a few of you were involved in some of them, coming to our workshops and commenting. And so this is just a reminder that even though it was a little bit ago for some of these, was something we also accomplished over the past 5 years. So we wanted to keep that in there and put that in there as well. Regarding the AB 2588, right after this, unless Rocio, you can grab it, in the tracker, we actually, anytime there's an update to our assessment of facility risk that our permitting team does over the course of time, we've been providing an update in a document that's in the tracker, and it's been translated into English, or it's in English and we translate it into Spanish. And so that's also something that we've been finished with for a little bit now, but just a reminder, it was something that we finished a while ago, but was part of our CERP commitment to you to assess any risk and then address any high-risk facilities, of which there aren't any in the Shafter community. Looking forward, so finally, I just wanted to, where did the monies go? Sorry, I'm pausing because I'll go back to the mission enforcement. One of the other questions was, what was the monetary total of the violations and where did the monies go? I don't have the monetary total of violations. There's a couple of things I'll say. One is that in some cases, the violations, even though we've issued a violation, a notice, it might not be a closed out issue of violation, meaning we're still working with the facility to understand what happened. So there might not be a penalty fee yet associated with it. So I don't have an accurate total. The other is that I think we've talked about this a while, is that generally our violation funds go back into our compliance and outreach efforts for the Valley. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is not every community gets the same focused money like Shafter or like Arvin or Fresno or Stockton. So this helps us address our compliance and outreach needs across the Valley in smaller communities like Lost Hills and Lanier and Delano that don't get those focused resources, but still need the same level of effort on our enforcement and our outreach work. So that's where our violation funding goes, and that's the type of work that we're able to do with it. And of course, in some cases, that also goes back into the community. It's sort of distributed across all of the communities that we serve. But I don't have a monetary total. We can look into maybe addressing that question as we finalize the annual report, Cesar. Any other question before I kind of go up to our final wrap-up slide about anything I've talked about or Michelle's talked about? All right, well, I'm going to read this slide and maybe it sparks maybe another discussion. So we are, as I mentioned earlier, committed to continue working with the schools, to attending events to connect you all to the work that we're doing. As Michelle said, she's like, keep inviting me. This is not we're done going to First Fridays or anything like that. But we do want to continue to work in a lot of disadvantaged communities across the valley. Some of the ones that I just mentioned are communities I think a lot of you also work in. And so we're really eager and excited to continue our work here and expand our work in those other communities. We will continue enforcement efforts in the Shafter community. We'll continue to do facility inspections and, of course, continue to prioritize responding to community concerns and complaints. And working with the community members to engage you all on any upcoming rulemaking process beyond, what we've just done in the past. So we definitely want you to know that this is a transition. It is not a goodbye. And it really is something that we're eager to keep working with you all on, especially after a lot of the decisions we just made last month. With that, I do, oopsies, think that I'm done with my slides. I will stop sharing, but take any questions. I think we have lots of time.
This is Vanessa. Thanks so much, Jess and Michelle, for that presentation. Well, we've heard a lot today. We've heard about the transition for this upcoming year to quarterly meetings, as well as some other details, and also have heard updates about the non-incentive CERP commitments. And so would love to hear if folks have any questions or comments or any reactions to any of the information that you just heard. Feel free to raise your hand, or if you'd rather pop something in the chat, you can do that as well. I'll wait another moment in case folks are thinking of questions or reflections that they want to share before we move on to the next item. Okay. I'm not seeing anything, so we can go ahead and continue the next item, but if something comes up, oh, I see there's a comment from Bianca. Can we get all the monetary from the violations to add for the upcoming transition here in chapter?
Bianca, I'm not sure I understand your question. Can you come off mute and explain? Sorry. Oh, there you go. Thank you.
My question was to those violation charges that are given to facilities, can it go back into the pile in Shafter so we could continue doing the work here in Shafter, or is already determined by the air district to send them out to the general funding from the air district?
Right. So yeah, so unconnected to AB617, the way that our violations work is not, that's not just how we do it in Shafter, that's how we do it across the valley so that we can continue to fund those outreach efforts in all of the communities across the valley. That said, there's definitely at this point, there is all the funding we need to continue to do what we need to do with you all. Is there from the implementation funding we budget for our work with you to the CAP funding to continue all of that CERP commitment is still very funded, meaning we still have all the money to do it and we don't need additional funds to do that work. So I don't know if that helps not only explain kind of our position, but also just hopefully comfort you all and let you know that that work is supported by funding that we have.
This is Vanessa. Thank you, Bianca, for your question. Just want to make sure that it was answered and you don't have any follow-up questions. I see a thumbs up. Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions or comments, reactions from folks? Not seeing anything, so I'm going to go ahead and transition us to the standing updates item. So as you all know, we take some time, 10 minutes out of each meeting to have agencies shared updates with the CSC. Tonight, we have updates from the Air District, from California Air Resources Board or CARB, and from DPR. I'll start off with the Air District. I believe, Michelle, you have an outreach update for us.
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you. Again, this is Michelle. I'm going to share my screen. I just have some quick updates on the outreach that we did this last month. And can you all see my screen?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can see it.
Okay. So again, thank you, everyone. I just want to provide some information about our joint effort with Valley Can. So a lot of you did help us distribute some of this information. So we'd like to thank you for anything that you guys did to help get the word out in Shafter. It was a great event. We had a lot of people attend. I know Jess provided some of those numbers, but just so you guys can see a few more pictures and really see what was going on the day of in Shafter. This event took place on November 2nd. Our outreach team was there. We distributed promotional materials, like I said, about our other programs, not just our Clean Air Rooms program, but we did help 62 families apply the day of. We have received a total to date of 1,185 applications. So we are super glad that this is still continuing to increase. If we can help with any additional flyering, or if we can send CSC members flyers, if you know of any other businesses that would be happy to distribute on our behalf, please let us know. We'd be happy to drop off or mail more flyers to you guys. Our event with Valley Can, like Jess said, we did do 322 lawnmowers. The event had 2 separate lines, so the smog or the tune in tune up line was completely separate from this event. And people did wait, and we're glad people waited. People were still excited. We didn't get complaints. We didn't, get angry customers. A lot of people were grateful. And if you guys saw on social media, there was a lot of people, tagging us with pictures of their new lawnmowers. So as you can see here, this is one of the bins that collected all of the lawnmowers. There was 2 of these, and they were completely full to the brim. So again, thank you for all your guys' help for that event. And like Jess said, we also did 206 vehicles that went through our tune in tune up line. Again, a great event. People didn't have to wait very long once the lines got moving. And if, like I said, if you guys know more events or other places that you guys want us to come out and do outreach, let me know, and we'd be happy to share that information, or just come out and start, dropping off flyers, or just information. If you guys have done, a lot of outreach for the Clean Air Rooms program, we'd be happy to drop off information about some of our other programs. I don't know if someone else is doing updates.
Not from the district, so I think we can pass it to the next one.
This is Vanessa. Great. Thank you, Michelle, for that update. It's great to see so many folks taking advantage of resources in their community. Lots of folks getting new lawnmowers and air purifiers, and also having their car swabbed. Are there any comments or questions from folks about any of the information, about any of the outreach events that Michelle shared about today? Not seeing anything. So with that, we can move on to CARB. Mike, I see you. Would you mind providing us with an update on behalf of CARB today?
Yeah, this will be pretty short. I just wanted to say hi again. I missed everyone at the in-person meeting. I am almost recovered from a surgery I took last month. So it was really sad not being able to meet many of you. But Michelle Byers from CARB was there, and she told me a lot of great things that went on. And besides that, I have actually taken a look at the annual report. The storyboard looks really amazing, and I really like the accessibility of it. And I would just kind of reiterate what Jessica said earlier in terms of if there is anything that anyone here thinks that should be added to it, I think that'd be really good to know because you guys have had a really long 5 years and there's been a lot done in the community, and it's certainly something to be proud of.
This is Jess. Mike, can I ask you to describe a little bit of like CARB's next steps? Maybe like as we pass the report to you, what does CARB do with the annual report?
Yeah, so year 5 does not mean that, Shafter's relationship with the AB617 and Community Air Protection Program has ended. There's still years 6 through 10, and that is outlined in Blueprint 2.0. However, it is quite vague. It depends on each community and the CSC's kind of outlook for the next 5 years after February. And so CARB plans to still be a liaison to the community as the implementations that are currently in progress are still going on. There are certainly a lot of plans that you guys implemented that have sort of completed, but still have a longer term kind of focus. And that's something that we really want to make sure continues in the community. And so that's sort of, a summary of that. CARB still has connections with the air districts as well. So even if the air district isn't kind of situated like they are here, now there will still be a lot of resources available.
Thank you. That was a fabulous answer. I was just meaning our annual report that we're turning into you all that I think your board takes in June, but that was great. And I really appreciate the thought, Mike, at least from a district perspective, that you and CARB have put into the transition piece as well. But I think typically the annual report for just general AB617 updates, is that again in the summer? Can you remind, or I don't know if you know, but I think it was like June, July last time.
Yeah, it'll be around that time again.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was, at least from my perspective, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I just came back from the West Oakland, and they're finishing their annual report. So we kind of had like a finishing up there. So I was kind of in the same mindset. That'll be all for me. Thank you.
This is Vanessa. Thank you so much, Mike, for the update and welcome back. It's great to have you at a meeting again. Are there any questions or comments for CARB today from the CSC?
Vanessa, this is Diana, not related to CARB, but just wanted to flag in the chat in case people didn't see it that Michelle posted the link for where Shafter residents can go for information about the lawnmower replacement and also the applications in English and Spanish for those if folks still would like to do that. And thanks, Michelle, for posting those.
This is Vanessa. Thank you, Diana, for elevating that. And yeah, thanks, Michelle, for addressing Angie's question about registering for a lawnmower event. At this time, I am gonna pass the mic to DPR for their update.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Mohammadi. Actually, I'm one of the environmental scientists from DPR.
So we have three updates. The first one is about the notification system. DPR is still working on finalizing the regulation. We are still on track to begin a statewide implementation of the notification system in the first quarter of next year. We will be back in touch on timing after the regulation is finalized. DPR is also planning to conduct broad outreach and engagement with the launch of the statewide notification system. My second update is about 13D regulations. The proposed regulation to reduce potential exposures to occupational bystanders, which means farm workers, will be released later this week. This regulation is getting developed jointly with OIHA. The release of the regulation will accompany a 60-day public comment period. More information about the release of the regulation will be provided to the Air District, and DPR will host 4 hearings on the regulation. The closest one will be in Visalia. I hope I'm correctly pronouncing it. On Wednesday, January 8th, from 6 to 8 p.m., Spanish and English interpretation will be available. There will be a virtual hearing on January 10 at 10 a.m. The other 2 hearings will be in Salinas on January 16 and Chico on January 21st. The links are provided by my supervisor actually in the chat. They have more information, including the times and the exact location of these meetings. The third one will be the update about the air monitoring network. Our 2023 draft air monitoring network was just released and has information about our results from Shafter. The link is going to be provided by Aniela. We have scheduled a virtual meeting for the communities where our air monitoring stations are located on December 12th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The meeting will be held on Zoom. We will provide English and Spanish interpretation. The goal of the meeting is to provide more information on the air monitoring results in the 4 communities where we do monitor. The Air District has previously sent information out about this meeting. Are there any questions?
This is Vanessa. Thank you, Sarah, for those updates. And as Sarah mentioned, Aniela has posted quite a few links in both English and Spanish regarding those updates. So definitely encourage you to take a look at those if you're eager to learn more about some of the virtual meetings that are going to take place, where you'll be able to provide public comments and also learn more about some of the topics that Sarah mentioned today. I'm not seeing any questions or comments. Oh, wait, let's see. Bianca, can you put it again in the chat? It took me off the meeting. Would it be possible, Aniela, to repost the links?
Yes, I'm doing that right now.
Thank you so much. All right, well, thanks so much, everyone, for those updates. Before we move on to our next agenda item, are there any questions or comments about any of those updates? Doesn't have to be about DPR, it could be about CARB or the Air District update as well.
This is Diana. I just want to make sure, Bianca, that all of the links that Aniela just posted included the thing that you are looking for. Got it. Cool. Thank you. And thank you, Aniela, for doing that.
And this is Jessica. We did send out an email, but we're happy to send out a follow-up as a reminder, maybe as we send out our other updates that we intend to send.
This is Vanessa. Thanks, Jess, in advance for doing that. And thanks, Bianca, for your comments. This is the link hops us off the meeting. Oh, sorry about that.
I think the link that you're probably clicking is the one that says log in using this link, which I think takes you directly to a Zoom. But the other links should be just to the information pages. Hopefully. Thank you.
This is Vanessa. Let us know if you have any other trouble, Bianca, and we'll see if we can send you the info some other way. Okay. I'm going to move us along to our next agenda item, which is the wrap up next steps item. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see that slide. 1 second. Can everyone see my screen okay?
We see, yeah, now we can.
Perfect, thank you. So once again, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight and staying engaged in today's meeting, and as always, helping address the air quality in Shafter. As we're nearing the end of our time together, I'd like to share a few next steps, which are summarized on the slide that you see in front of you. So the next CSC meeting for Shafter is going to take place on Monday, January 13th at 5 p.m. via Zoom. And we'd like you to note that there isn't going to be a CSC meeting held in December. And so we really hope that everyone has a wonderful holiday season and look forward to reconnecting with everyone in 2025 at January CSC meeting. And as for agenda setting, so as Jess had mentioned previously in the non-incentive commitment presentation, the Air District does not plan on holding any more agenda setting meetings for the rest of the year. The agenda for January CSC meeting is going to be focused on reviewing the incentive SERP measure updates. So specifically, those will be for incentives that were talked about at last month's in-person meeting, like paving, for example. And February CSC meeting will be an in-person celebration of the CSC's accomplishments over the past several years. So that being said, we do encourage the CSC to share any other topics that they'd like to discuss if there's something that you want to talk about in January. So are there any suggestions about topics that folks would like to include, or any questions or comments that folks have about agenda setting? I'm not seeing anything in the chat, not seeing any reactions. Okay. So to add on, we're also really happy to share that, as Jess had mentioned, the February meeting will be held in person. The Air District is going to share more details about this with the CSC really soon. We're really happy that we'll be able to see you all again next year, and We had such a great time last month, and we know that it's going to be an even better time being able to spend that time to celebrate all of the CSC's accomplishments and prepare for the upcoming 5 years as well. In the meantime, we'd like to spend some time reflecting on some of the highs, the lows, and areas of improvement from last month's meeting with the CSC. Our team works hard to ensure that the CSC is top of mind during CSC meeting planning. And so whatever input you could provide, whether that's constructive or otherwise, is really helpful to us, especially as we start thinking about how we can prepare for February's in-person meeting to make sure that it's a success and folks feel like it's a valuable use of their time. So that being said, I'm curious to hear from folks if they have any highs of the meeting that they'd like to share, or in other words, things that they thought went well, lows of the meeting, or in other words, things that maybe didn't go as well, or any changes that you would suggest that we make for future in-person meetings.
So Vanessa, this is Diana. So just to clarify, you're asking people to reflect on highs or lows from last month's October in-person meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Vanessa. I know that was a lot. So if folks have any clarifying questions they'd like to ask, I'm happy to answer those too.
This is Jessica. So Sar, I shared the very first slide on my presentation talked about the meeting frequency being quarterly after our January and February meetings. And awesome, thank you.
This is Vanessa. So I would just like to reiterate how important it is to us for the CSC to provide feedback if they have any, whether that's positive or like on the more constructive side. So just want to see if anyone has anything that they'd like to share that can help inform how future in-person meetings go and how we plan for those, if you have anything. As always, there's no pressure to, but if there's something that maybe you're thinking about whether you should or shouldn't share, we'd be happy to hear it if you feel comfortable doing it. And you can post in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and share out loud, you can do that too. And Diana also posted the questions that we had for our debrief in the chat, if those are helpful.
So Vanessa, folks are feeling like they want to share maybe as we get closer to the meeting. We do have another CSC meeting in January if something occurs to you by then, or if in between now and January, there's something you're thinking about during the meeting. I think a couple of things that I was reflecting on, I really thought that compared to years past, not that anything was bad, but we had a lot of little things to work out with moving from table to table with translation. So one high for me was just, I thought the translation interpretation equipment was so much smoother this time. And I want to thank our Linguistica team and all of you for, I think, adapting to the new technology and the way we were able to work with our facilitation team and our district translators and our Linguistica interpreters on all of those different pieces. So that was a really big high for me. And then as always, I want to thank Rocio for picking out the best food for all of us, because that's always my other big piece.
This is Vanessa. Thanks so much, Jess, for that reflection. And definitely want to echo what you said. Linguistica was amazing. They always move mountains for us when it comes to the in-person meeting. So I think that the way the interpretation went this year or at last month's meeting went really well. And also want to elevate, there was a couple of things that we did differently this time around. So if you all noticed, those of you who attended the meeting, instead of giving you the handout separately, we put them in folders. We wanted to see if that was maybe a little bit more helpful for folks to keep materials in one place. With the World Cafe, we kind of, we're gauging how folks were feeling with like the cups, and we had you put in the colored craft sticks to show how you were feeling before consensus building. And so hopefully those were all really helpful in helping you all navigate those topics and just the meeting in general. And I see Michelle, you have your hand up. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So I did like the folders. I think it was nice to have something to write on when you were at the stations. And I agree that even we moved stations with Spanish and English together, that the translation was easy, and every time we went to the station that was set up nicely. And I do like the what are those, the popsicle sticks, because it gave an indication that we could move forward and not not dwell on something we'd already decided on. And of course, the food, does a great job, so that was always lovely too. Thank you.
This is Vanessa. Thanks, Michelle. And I will add that you did an amazing job as co-host as well. Don't think that we forgot. Want to share that we thought you did amazing with opening and closing comments. And yeah, as always, like if folks are interested in taking on that co-host position for the upcoming February in-person meeting, please let us know. We'll be happy to prep you and work with you to make sure that you feel comfortable and are ready to provide those comments. Well, I'm going to move us on to our next item, but if you have any feedback for us at all, please feel free to reach out to the Air District, or you can also reach out to us. I will post our emails so that you know who to reach out to on our team. And yeah, as always, thanks everyone for your feedback and for attending the in-person meetings. It's always a treat to see everyone in person. It's great to see everyone virtually, but it's even better when we're all in the same room, right? All right, so as we always do at the end of the meeting, I'm gonna go ahead and share the action items that we wrote down during our meeting today. And we do that in order to help with transparency and accountability. So give me one moment as I share my screen. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and read these out. I do want to say that we work pretty quickly to write down action items. And so if you see an action item that isn't reflective of what you heard or what you shared, we apologize. And if there's any changes that you want to make, or maybe we missed an item, please let us know and we're happy to do it in real time. All right, so the first one that we have is the Air District will send out printed copies of the annual report to CSC members who usually receive printed materials. The second item is the Air District will expand on outreach opportunities for vegetative barrier measure in the annual report. as well as on the friendly and productive connection between residents and growers. Third item, the Air District will add information about the number of violations given out to the enforcement report as part of the annual report. Fourth item, the Air District will look into getting information about the monetary total of the violations information for the annual report. And the last item, the Air District will send out information about upcoming DPR meetings to the CSC. So those are the items that we have for today. Are there any changes that folks would like to make to those? Or are there any items that we're missing that you'd like to see us include on this list? This is Vanessa, and thanks so much, Diana, for posting our emails so folks can provide us with feedback. I'm gonna wait a moment in case folks are forming their thoughts. Okay, not seeing anything, so I'm gonna stop sharing now. And I will reshare my screen for the public comment slide. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks again, everyone, for being here at tonight's meeting and for your continued engagement. As always, we're really grateful that you're here with us and for all that the CSC has shared during this meeting and other meetings as well. At this time, we'd like to open up the floor to anyone who would like to make any final comments about anything that they heard about today. As a reminder, comments from community members are really important to the AB617 process because they help ensure that this program is shaped with the community's needs and perspectives in mind. If you're interested in making a comment, the instructions are on this slide. So for public attendees on Zoom, please raise your hand to ask a question, or you can press *9 if you're on your phone, or you can also type in the chat if you would rather do it that way. I'll wait a moment more in case folks are thinking about anything to share. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm not seeing any comments or anything that would lead me to believe that folks have anything to share. So we can officially conclude tonight's meeting. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. It's great to see you all, whether you have your camera on or not. I hope that you'll have a wonderful evening, and this is going to be the last meeting that we are together for the rest of the year. We won't see each other until January, and so we're wishing you a really wonderful holiday season. We hope that you are taking care of yourselves during this time and are really excited to reconnect in the new year. Thank
I
you.
love seeing the whole group.
Thank you. That's such
Thank
a
you.
great picture. Hi, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year's.